Welcome back, Alien fans. It's your good captain of the Nostromo, Alex here, from Sandro Says, ready to talk about Alien Earth Episode 6, The Fly.
Attention, emergency. All personnel must evacuate immediately.
I went old school this week. I took notes on a notepad. So, going into the episode, I had a few questions that I wanted answered. Especially after last week, we just saw the ship episode, so the actual storyline has been paused for 2 weeks. I was really curious about Wendy and the alien, or as I'm calling them, the Wendalian. It's kind of like the new Brangelina, if you will. I really think that it was interesting how they left it off, that she seemed to connect with that first alien that burst out of her brother's lung. I wonder if I still don't even know if she understands that's her brother's lung that it came out of, but we'll figure that out later, or we won't. Marrow and Slightly. Marrow at the end of the episode said he was going to not only get the alien back for her, for Miss Yutani, but also kill Boy Cavalier. Slightly seemed to be off the hook, but we're really not sure what happened there. I don't know why I thought he was off the hook, because in this episode we find out he is very much not off the hook. So, what happens with Slightly and Hermit? Does Slightly continue to do his Michael Myers impression and stalk Hermit and try to kill him? And what's going on with Eye Guy? The Eye Alien has been by far the big standout of the series. So what are they building towards with the Eye Alien? So, okay, the first thing we see is Wendy playing with her new alien friend. It's inside a secure area, secure cage, a glass cage or whatever, a glass containment unit. It's growing at a slower rate than most aliens we've seen in the series, which is strange. It also looks a little different. The colors are off. I wonder if it's because it was grown from just a lung or not. We can't really tell. At the end of the episode, we see it, and it looks basically normal at that point, but I wonder what they were going for at the beginning. Of course, it has a little back and forth with Wendy, where is it attacking her, is it not? But again, they seem to be having communication. She seems to communicate with them, and what we find out in the next part of the scene is that she's emphasizing they didn't choose to come here. So they are very defensive, and she is on their side, it seems. So already we have the first question of, is she going to be the one that releases the aliens in this episode or in the next 1 or 2 episodes? And Kersh is talking to her brother at this point. Kersh can't just be an android. He seems too catty. He seems like he had the personality of someone imprinted onto him. Because even though androids have had negative feelings towards humans in the past, they don't really say it out loud too often, whereas Kersh seems to openly antagonize Hermit, which is interesting. Hermit, as the series goes on, becomes kind of an annoying character because he wants to take Wendy back home to this utopia life that he thinks he can live with his robot sister, but she's actually enjoying being there and being involved with the science and with the aliens, so he's trying to control her without her choice, and she's had a lot of choices taken from her. So she wants to take some ownership and be the driving force in where her life goes. So that's interesting. We now go to Boy Cavalier talking with Yutani. They have a mediation session. Some type of mediator is there. Boy Cavalier comes in with dirty feet. He's putting them up on the table. He's showing that he has no respect for the situation. Yutani thinks that she can just throw money at him and get her product back, but Boy Cavalier knows he holds all the cards, especially the more that she offers for them, the more he realizes just how valuable these things are. So he ends up cutting a deal, but he's able to outsmart her because he knows there's a quarantine, so he has an X amount of time to still do his experiments before handing them over. So he can basically do his experiments and ruin them and then hand them over and still get paid. So that's what you think Boy Cavalier is going to do. Right after this, we see a scene with Marrow and Kersh on an elevator leaving the mediation session, and they have a real interesting discussion. It almost feels like one of those antagonistic discussions where they're one-upping each other and trying to describe how the other one's inferior, but I also got the feeling there was mutual respect there. There was some type of mutual understanding between the two of them. Maybe they were on the same page, even if they weren't, even if they didn't realize they were, which we definitely find out later in the episode, in my opinion, why I think that's the case. So, I got a weird feeling. Like, basically, Morrow said he wanted to introduce chaos into the lab to release some of these specimens and recover, what's left after all the mess. And it seemed like Kersh was going to be okay with that. So, as far as Nibs, we left Nibs alone, I believe 2 episodes ago, maybe even 3, after she thought she was getting pregnant. They are going to reset her brain to before any of these things happened, any of the pregnancy talk, even before they went to the ship. So basically, Nibs is going to be reset to episode 1 before anything started. One of the doctors, the male doctor, disagrees with that, but his wife, the older lady, she's all for it. Like, hey, I'll do whatever the company wants for, the name of science. He gets fired as a result, which is kind of, it's a bummer because it shows he's one of the only people that actually cares about the human inside the robot, or the human mind, or whatever's left of humanity inside that robot. So it's tough to see that, but she doesn't seem to care. She's kind of like, okay, well, moving on. So they reset Nibs' memory, but they don't tell any of the other androids or robots or whatever the hell we're calling them. So Wendy immediately goes to Nibs' room to wake her up, and he's like, hey, why don't you remember anything? Remember this terrifying thing that happened to you? Remember the eye guy that you were scared of? Remember this? Remember that? Why don't you remember it? What's wrong with you? Why are you broken? And Nibs is like, I'm not broken. What? And then it starts to mess with her brain. So you can see that's another thing. Nibs, she's someone who might go haywire and break the aliens out. So Wendy is also starting to get a little annoyed. Why is Wendy pressing her so much? Why didn't Wendy take the cue of, hey, something's not right here. Maybe I should just back off. She just kept pressing her almost to the point that Nibs was going to snap. So, I kind of want to talk about, so let's talk about Wendy ends up going to the old lady doctor's office and saying, hey, so what'd you do to Nibs? Can you just do that to any of us? Did Nibs even have a choice? Which raises a lot of interesting questions for Wendy about who's in control here. If they could just reset her at any point and she wouldn't even know if she's being reset. Definitely scares Wendy. It definitely makes her, again, want to take some of her own control, which kind of, it almost feels like she's siding with the aliens because she identifies with them, where she says, hey, they were taken against their will. I have things being done to me against my will, even though I was going to die, so there's trade-offs, but that's what happens when you're a kid in an adult body with aliens everywhere. These things are just bound to happen. So now we have Slightly and Smee. Slightly's out in the forest talking to Marrow again. It's the same thing we've seen for the last 10 episodes where he's crying, saying, no, I can't do it. Marrow says, if you don't do it, I'm going to kill your mom, blah, blah, blah. Smee comes out, and Smee actually, he's starting to grow on me. I liked his little, his little huffing and puffing here. He seems to be the only one that's not, aging up. He's like, I want to just have fun, and they have to explain to him, hey, being an adult isn't just fun. It kind of sucks. So, and then as they're walking, because, Slightly realizes he has to finally sacrifice someone to the egg, as we're walking, we are reminded, on this island, there are so many randoms. There's so many guards and scientists and stuff that we don't know the name of. So I know it's part of, a storyline where he has to take someone we know, but it's just funny because in reality he could take any number of these other people and it would be fine. Isaac snaking Curly, I thought that was pretty cool, how Isaac is really starting to feel his oats as the head scientist, and Curly, who a couple episodes was like, hey, I want to be special, she, I think other people are aware of her wanting to be special, so Isaac's like, no, I can do it on my own, and that's what leads to basically the point of failure, which starts off the beginning of the end, I think, for Prodigy and for the series. Basically, Isaac goes and his job is to feed the animals and run a new experiment, feed the animals, the experiments, the aliens, whatever you want to call them, and then run the next test. As he's feeding them, there's one animal that we hadn't been, or one alien that we have not been introduced to before. We've seen a bit of it in previous episodes where it has a weird cocoon, almost like, a hornet's nest on the side of a containment unit. So now we finally see these things, and not only are they flying animals, I thought at first they were the bugs that suck the blood out of things. The reason this is all important is because as Isaac is feeding each of the alien specimens, the door breaks on this containment unit, so immediately he's alone in there. He should stop what he's doing and get help, bring Curly and do something. He doesn't. So with the door broken, he decides to go into the unit, breaking containment, and leave the food down. But as he's picking up the tray of food before bringing it over, he should have noticed that it was made of computer parts. It was not organic material or hay or something to feed it. It was literally like computer junk and metal and stuff. So normally these aliens have no interest in androids because they can't impregnate them, they can't eat them. This alien was very interested in an android. So the minute he went in there and he was trying to position the food or do so, I don't know exactly what he was doing where he got caught up, but the eye guy in the lamb still rams the side of the cage to scare him, which ended up getting the door closed. Why the door closed and locked, I'm not sure, because to get into the cage in the first place, he had to unlock the door. And I don't think it would just automatically lock as soon as you closed it. Maybe it would for containment purposes. I don't know. Either way, now he's trapped in there, and it finally dawns on him that, hey, these things eat inorganic material, like me. So two of the fly guys come out. They attack. They spit some acid, and they start... It looked like they were drinking his milk juice or whatever from his face, but they were definitely just feasting on his insides. And that starts the beginning of the end for what's going on here. Lamb guy is very happy. He's definitely caused some chaos. So, first robot down was what I wrote. And, okay, so as much as the lady wants to appear... As much as the evil... Mother lady wants to appear, as much as the evil scientist lady wants to appear motherly, she's clearly all about the evil and the science. So they kind of throw some misdirection with her, but I think especially once her husband died, or once her husband got fired, soon to be dead, that was the end of her possible positivity in the series. So next scene, we get Hermit going to talk to the science guy that was leaving, because he seemed to be the only one that cares about Wendy, and he noticed that, like I mentioned earlier, he's the only one that seems to actually care about the humans inside. So he asks, hey, he tried to give him a hint, like, hey, what can I do? How can I get her off the island? All this stuff. The science guy knows they're being watched, so he slyly tells the kid, hey, this is how you get them off the island. I'm going to turn them off the trackers. Here's a boat for you. Here's the code for the boat. As soon as that happens, he notices that one of the robots, one of the androids, is offline, which was Isaac, who we just saw get killed. So even though this guy, the scientist, is fired, and he was supposed to leave the island by the end of the day, they didn't revoke any of his clearance, which, by the way, that's not how it works in a job. Like, they let you leave the building, sure, but the minute you're fired, they revoke your clearance. You can't just go walk into a server room and mess with it. So the fact that hours later he's able to go into the most secure lab in the entire facility, a lab he hadn't even been in before, which he probably wouldn't have had access to in the first place, it doesn't make sense. And it's not like Slightly let him in. Slightly was following him during all this. He just took advantage of the situation. So, of course, Scientist Man goes in. Scientist Man sees that his robot's on the ground, tries to open the door and assess the situation because he cares about these robots again. But unfortunately, by doing that, he's put himself at risk because now all these other... the eggs are right next to him. Slightly sees his chance. He says, well, hey, this is a human. I have limited time to get this done. I'm going to pop the door for the eggs. I'm going to pop the door here and just run out. And then he does. He traps the man in there. We have one of the more terrifying scenes with the facehugger. You knew it was going to get him because we had to get a facehugger on a human because Slightly had to solve that problem. There had to be more chaos here. Get the facehugger on the person, and now at this point, Slightly doesn't realize that the bug alien that was flying around earlier is interested in androids. So as he's trying to escape with the now face-huggered scientist, he's going into the vents, which are, again, in the Alien movies, these vents are human-sized, which is amazing. But he goes into the vents, and these bugs are coming right after him. So you felt like Slightly was going to get killed right there, but he didn't. He escaped. So for the moment, Slightly's okay. But all in all, and then you see at the end, you see the eye guy, who really didn't do much in this episode besides stare at things and then ram the door to start the chain of events. You wonder how this is going to play out because he seems very pleased with himself, at least the way the music crescendoed at the end and stuff. He seems very pleased with what the outcome of the day was and how it's going to lead to either his escape or something. So, all in all, I thought it was a badass episode. I really enjoyed it. I like how the series is evolving. I do have a couple, minor complaints. I think that the story of Wendy is probably the most interesting, and she's taken a back seat for a lot of the series after the first couple episodes. So that's not great, but maybe we'll get more footage in the future with her, or maybe in the last two episodes it really becomes her arc again, because she has the most interesting case of what she's learning and how she's evolving. So I don't know, we'll see about that. I'm interested to see what happens with Kersh, why he knows what happened in the lab and he doesn't seem bothered by it, which again goes back to my point where he's okay with this chaos. He's a little annoyed at being Boy Cavalier's errand boy. He wants to see the aliens are not a threat to him, although he doesn't realize about the bug ones probably. Although, okay, sorry, he must know about the bug ones because he was in the lab with them. And the whole point of the lab was no humans allowed in because the aliens would attack humans. But what about these bugs? Like, they should have been in a different lab where only humans were allowed in. I don't know. But all in all, 2 episodes left. We get to see what's going to happen here. I feel like a few more... We started to thin out the cast a little bit. We lost one of the androids and one of the human characters. I feel like we're going to start losing a couple more. Either one of the two mercenaries or guards or whatever you call them that are friends with Hermit, they're going to meet their demise. I feel like the old lady scientist isn't going to survive. Boy Cavalier is almost definitely not going to make it. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this ends up, how this plays out. So please leave your thoughts in the comments below. As always, I could really appreciate a like, a subscribe, a follow, a share, whatever people do nowadays. But either way, I will see you next time for episode 7. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.